Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to live streaming. This is Tom Dutta, the host of the Quiet Warrior Show. So what is live streaming? Well, we're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you don't know what that is, well, go check out the YouTube channel for Tom Dutta. Give it a subscription. If you post and like the subscription button, it's going to get this show noticed. And we're going to honor our amazing guest that we're going to bring on. He's in the green room. I'll be there in just a moment. Everybody, live streaming will be the taping today of this epic show, and we'll be producing it into an international podcast. So you want to go find where you get your podcasts, the Quiet Warrior Show. We'll also be releasing it as a future YouTube premiere, and you'll be able to maybe even chat live with the host on that to the chat box. But you want to go subscribe again to the YouTube channel so that you can get the notification. That's how we do more of these shows and we get it known. So I want to, before I bring on my guest from the green room, introduce you to his background. I'm really excited about this one. Sam Thiara, he's a professional. He's created a personal journey as a speaker, a storyteller, a writer, an educator, a coach, an entrepreneur, problem solver, a community activator. Man, he was just telling me in the green room that he's doing 13 projects right now. Well, 12. He teaches at the Beedie School of Business for those in the international community. That's up here in British Columbia, Canada. Sam and I are fellow residents in this province. He's a founder and chief motivating officer at Ignite the Dream Coaching and Consulting. And one of the things I love about that, about Sam's words, Ignite the Dream, he's a dreamer, man, and he's done something extraordinary. He's done 2 books, shared 2 TEDx conferences. And finally, his tagline, everyone's life is an autobiography. Make yours worth reading. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Sam Thiara. Sam, welcome.
Thanks for having me on here, Tom, and I look forward to sharing and hopefully giving some insights to your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just joking that we have this British kind of sense of humor. I think I called you Uncle Sam, so to all the Americans out there, a little bit of fun we were having. Sam, you know, when I get people on the show, it's about this thing I call the hero's journey, which Joseph Campbell left us a library of research, really the journey that we're all connected by a thread in our stories. And dude, when you and I connected, I was just blown away. I don't think this has ever happened because I could have sworn that you were me. Your life story and everything you're doing just has so much connection to who I am. And so this is going to be a great conversation. But first, are you up for a video? I want to watch a video with you.
Sure. By all means.
I think you know a guy who might have done this video. So everybody, we're going to watch about a 2.5 minute video. I just want you to take it all in. It's breathtaking. And then we'll get Sam and I to have a conversation through that. So stand by. We're going to start the video.
Lost and found, seeking the past and finding myself. I went on a journey, on a seemingly impossible quest, to find my grandfather's village with little more than a faded photograph and little else.
Wow.
I went to India for the first time as a British-born Canadian with parents from Fiji and grandparents from India. The journey was filled with mishaps and surprising encounters, but it allowed me to have a growing sense of purpose. While traveling through India, I drank in the beauty of the Taj Mahal and the Golden Temple, and I started connecting more deeply with my roots. While being in the presence of magnificence, I confronted the ugliness of the country's poverty and injustice. But I wrestled with the sense of self. Who am I? Am I Canadian? Am I Indian? Am I something else? Slowly, I began to piece the puzzles of my own life and the ancestral life. In the process, I was able to, by some amazing way, to find my grandfather's house. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack, but not knowing where the haystack was. And I was a foreigner, going to a land that shouldn't be foreign to me. It is a beautiful story that I hope you can embrace. I'm reminded of a quote by Anthony Bourdain that captures the essence of this memoir. Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you. Hopefully, you leave something good behind. The journey itself allowed me to overcome the obstacles, not listen to the noise, and to proceed to find my ancestral roots and to find myself. That is why it is called Lost and Found, Seeking the Past and Finding Myself. Go in search, and what is lost that you may find. But always remember, don't just look for the obvious, seek out what may not be clear, and you'll be amazed at what you discover.
All right. I'm just going to turn that off there, Sam.
Mhm.
Wow. Does that ever get old? I know that was a preview video for the new book.
No, it never gets old. And every time I watch it, it just relives the whole experience and the memories and just the epicness of this personal journey that I went on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to tell everybody that we have the book here. Can you hold it up there, Sam? We're just going to focus on you there. There it is. It's a beautiful book. Thank you, Sam. Everybody, I highly recommend you get a copy of Sam's book. And of course, author's work gets known when we leave reviews. So give a review on Amazon, Goodreads.com. I know, Sam, I'm going to post a review for you. I want to mention that when Sam sent me the book, I got this really funky card that came with it. I'm just going to full screen me for a minute. There. Little thank you card. Now, not many people write thank you cards. Sam did that for me. And then there's a passage that says, "Who you are never goes unnoticed." It really touched my heart. So, Sam, let's get into it. I wrote down a question on my page that was in my mind. They say that we're seekers and we go on an adventure. And for some, we hear this call to adventure through our life. Many don't always answer the call. Many have not ever done a journey like you did. They say sometimes it's when there's not good things happening in life that cause us to answer the call. I was reading in your book about your early years and just growing up and it being conflicted maybe about your identity and then looking for that. What was the moment where you knew you had to do this?
Right. Part of it is, you grow up. I mean, I was born in England, raised in Canada. My parents come from Fiji and grandparents come from India. And oftentimes people would ask, what part of India are you from? And, sometimes it's curiosity. Sometimes, it may be somebody who wants to beat you up, who wants to know first before I beat you up, whether you're Canadian or Indian or whatever. But it was, growing up in, my community, really, it's predominantly Caucasian and Canadian. And you assume this life that is being Canadian. And for me, when I started going to university, I started being exposed more to a more global community and seeing more of individuals who came from India or other parts of the world who had embraced their own, Indian identity. And that was part that was really missing from my life. And the more I got exposed to these individuals, the more I started asking these questions of myself, of my foundation and who I am as an individual. And to be fair, my parents never, shielded us away from being Indian. It was more of, their lives got busy, our lives got busy, and you just assumed a life. And it wasn't anything, but only when I was in university did that spark start to emerge and started to grow.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I was saying up front as we began the show, everybody, if you're watching the video, you'll see Sam and I together here. If you're on the podcast, obviously you won't. But Sam, one of the things when you said, Fijian parents, born in Britain and roots to India for your grandparents, most people don't know my true story, but that is me. And when I came to this country, it was interesting because my life changed as an early 12-year-old where my father wasn't there. But I had this call as well, and I remember being in high school, and back then it was like the Wild West, and words like Hindu and raghead and whatnot were pretty prominent. I remember going home from school one day with tears in my eyes. My mom used to stand me up and say, "Don't you ever let anybody say that they're better than you." And I never knew my grandfather. He passed away too young. Met my grandmother once. So when I read the book and saw this story, I went, "Wow!" So hold up that beautiful picture you have there. I want everybody to see that.
Right.
Let's get you. Tell us what is that?
So this is a picture that I had received about the people from my grandfather, my paternal side, the village or the house in India. This is literally what I had to go by, as well as the name of the village, the town it was near, and as well as the district. But again, the information was never really purely accurate. All I really had was this photograph to go by. And just think about, you go to India with this photograph and very little information, and that's a big country and there's a lot of people. We were able to narrow it down to a segmented part in Punjab, and some ideas. But it was interesting, Tom, how there wasn't a lot of help. I mean, I would find people who maybe were from the district or from the town that was nearby the village, and people said, never heard of it. I think the name is wrong, or even to the point where, why are you even searching? Because, you may not even get a good reception. There wasn't really any, you go for this and you look for this. But much like what you mentioned about this thread, that's all that it was separating our generation from this village. And I'm the only one holding this thin piece of thread. And if I don't do this, it skips a generation. It's disappeared forever. Yeah,
it's amazing. The video, going back to the video, Sam, it's a beautiful visual tour of parts of that journey. How long was the actual time in India? How long did you spend?
3 weeks. And, wow. It was a short time. Part of it is, we had the 3 weeks and, not being to India ever, I wanted to see its magnificence, but equally at the same time, not as a voyeur, but I needed to experience even the poverty. And this, what emerged out of this is the term for me, tourist and traveler. And what I mean by this is and there's nothing wrong with being a tourist, but a tourist just wants to see, but a tourist does not want to experience. Whereas I wanted to eat the local food at the dabbas, the roadside cafes. I wanted to walk the streets. I needed to see the poverty on mass scale, but not because of a voyeur and saying, oh, look, this is cool while eating a sandwich. I needed to see and experience India in all its magnificence and all its challenges. But what I really found by being open to this experience is, the poverty was difficult for me to see, but I also noticed this tremendous resilience in the people. And the fact that, they would still be smiling, or they'd be willing to share, even though they haven't got much. And it made me realize that everybody has got worries, but our worries are superficial compared to what their worries are survival. Our worries are, do I buy the shirt or don't I buy the shirt? Or,
that's right.
And I mean, yes, granted, even, here we have, people with ailing health, and that's a worry. And I can totally appreciate and value that. But I think the perspectives are shifted and changed. And it really was an eye-opening experience, which I wrote about when I saw the poverty for the first time and how significant that was as a option. Because as a community activator, my life revolves around, rolling up my sleeves and trying to solve problems and support and help. And the scale that was in India is just en masse, and it was just impossible to do anything.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have to say, I watched the movie Slumdog Millionaire years ago, and I've had some friends who went there. One of them said he cried. He was a CFO, so very hardened kind of person, tough in business. He said it changed his life. When we were watching that video, there's moments in it of that. And one of the things that I've always struggled with, Sam, is my father was trying to educate me about India a bit and the caste system, and
Yep.
and here somebody's on the street and you go by and people can give them some money or help them. In your book we really learned about you don't do that.
No.
And there's many reasons. Everybody, we're talking about the book Lost and Found. I get to show it now. Look at that. It's got a hole in it, Sam. That's pretty.
There you go.
That means we're connected deeply into this book. And that is some of the things I learned from the book. Why I love this book so much is I'm seeking and searching for my roots, and you taught me a lot, particularly about the faith side of it, Sikhism. Also, I just breathless when I saw I read it. I listened to the audiobook actually. Tell me about the moment when you talk about the Golden Temple, and then there was another experience. Just take us into that moment, because I think it was incredible for you.
It was, and this is coming from a person who may not even be recognized as necessarily religious. Spiritual, yes, but not necessarily religious. And I went to the holiest place for Sikhs, and a Sikh is my background, which, the people who wear the turban and the long beards. And, my grandfathers both were practicing Sikhs. And by going to the Golden Temple, I had a spiritual moment where I got lost in that place, not physically, but just spiritually. I'm sitting there right in the heart of this Golden Temple, and I literally started to weep, and I don't know why. I started to pray for the world, and I don't pray. It felt like somebody had come and wrapped a blanket around me. And, it was interesting because I've had these spiritual moments, even, if I'm in the woods, or, if I've visited certain places, and there's this connectedness. And what I found is part of it is also, it's almost like it gave me this spiritual blessing that you're doing the right thing by going in search of this village. And it was also interesting because as I was preparing for the visit to the Golden Temple, there's two parts to the book. One is finding the ancestral roots, and the other part was about finding my own personal identity. And the morning that I was on my way to go to the Golden Temple to experience it, that's actually where the realization came for my own personal identity.
Wow. Who is Ajit?
Yes. So I was born Ajit.
There you
and
go.
It's a very fitting name. It's a beautiful name. It means unconquerable and a winner. And it really resonates with regards to who I am.
Yeah.
But when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I was born in England. My parents, just as a name, started calling me Sam. They liked the name, and it stuck. And, all my legal documents have Ajit. There's no Sam that exists anywhere. And when I'm with anyone, everyone refers to me as Sam. So it was more, again, not so much that my parents wanted to Canadianize or Britishize my name. It was more of just a pet name, and it stuck, and everybody calls me Sam. Saying that, there are a few people who just refuse to call me Sam. They're like, Ajit is such a beautiful name. And I think what we need to do is revive it. They said, go and change your name back. Well, I said, I don't even have to change my name. All my legal documents, but the only challenge is I may not respond because of the fact that, Ajit and Sam, it may take a few minutes for me to register. Oh, wait, you're calling me.
I've already coined a couple. We'll call you Sajit or a jam or something.
There you go.
I play guitar. We can go have a jam, man.
There we can.
What's interesting, I just want to riff on that point. Everybody, this is a teaching moment. I spend time mentoring young South Asians. We can turn on the TV, Sam, and we can watch some of the comedians. One comes to mind, but I forget his name sometimes. And we can poke fun at ourselves just because we are who we are. And so everybody, you heard Sam say born in England. Well, so was I. One of my parents named me Thomas. Of course, my second name is Ashok, which is Dad's name. I have a third name, believe it or not, Harold. I was trying to figure out what is my mom and dad named me after the doctor that delivered me, believe it or not. And what I found is when I came here, I don't know if my parents Canadianized it for any reason, but I have a younger brother, Glenn, and an older brother, Robert. I found coming here for a while, and I'm not always proud to say it, trying to hide the fact that I had roots to India. People would say, are you Indian? And I would say, no, I'm Fijian. And I don't know why I would do that. But here's the thing, Sam, which you taught me, dude, it started happening 2-3 years ago. I started pulling out my Gandhi DVD, one of the best movies, and watching it. And then I would find, my wife Anna would tell you, I would find movies. And Mother India was calling me. I've never been there, as I said, but there was something in me. And then my father passed away in January 18. And when I was in the house, my dad, was practicing his faith, but he was back in Fiji. He became a Mormon. And then when we came here, became a Catholic because Mom said. It's just weird. So I want to give it back to you on this. I found people say, what's your gut punch? My gut punch to find my roots was there was a hole in my soul, because I feel that living that early part of my life in denial doesn't release me from the pain of my experience with my father. I think when I'm really searching to find his roots, so that I can finish that journey and I can honor my dad. I should have been out there saying I'm proud to be Indian. Yeah, I was born in England, and here's where I'm from. So thank you for blessing us with that big part of your story. The next moment in the video, and everybody go back and watch this video. It's at the early part of the production here. Is the moment you saw the house. Now, we're not going to be a spoiler here, because there's a story. Man, I wanted to punch you when I was reading your book, and something that, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm going like, really? But the moment and you saw that house, tell me what you felt. Tell me the experience. Just bring us into that.
No, and it's not even necessarily a spoiler alert. I find that, really the essence of the book is the journey to find my grandfather's house. And, I think sometimes we're in a rush to just say, okay, did he find it? Did he not? But it was the journey itself, which is woven throughout the entire book. And as I go forward, it was defeatist in the beginning because of the attempts that we had made. And I remember on the day that we were actually on our last day, trying to search for this village, and somebody had said, okay, I've heard of the village and it's up the road. I just remember writing in my journal, here we go again. And just the whole idea of like, I've been through this, I think this is the last attempt, and I don't even know if this is going to materialize, because, in the past, this is what has happened on the trip to India, is people would say, yes, I think the house is this way. And, you're on the journey. Well, we finally, this one gentleman, and again, you could read about it, had said, I'm, he looked at the picture, and it was more like there's this one faded guy in the background, which I can't even see his face. And here we've got this really old man saying, I think I recognize this guy. And you're like, yeah, okay, here we go again. But when we got to this house and people came out, it was really interesting because, what happened is, and I'm just sort of pulling this picture, is, so this woman right here, hang on just a sec, right there in the white shawl, she looked at this picture and she said, that's me. Who are you guys? And it was like, oh, my heart, are you? And it was almost like I had to do a double take. Wait, wow. Are you serious? And she was like, yeah, no, this is, who are you guys? And when we started sharing who we were, she knew exactly who we were because of stories she had heard of the people in Canada and Fiji and whatnot. And people are like, well, okay, how are they related to you? So my grandfather left Punjab in the village when he was maybe 16, 17 years old, probably around 1905. And he never went back to the village, but he used to write letters. And my grandfather was the younger brother, but he had an older brother. And all of the people that we had met in this village at this house, which that's our house.
Yep.
My grandfather's older brother's family.
Wow.
That's how we were able to connect it.
That's incredible. Everybody, I don't know if you know understand the gravity of the story here, but how many people in India, just roughly?
There's like 1.5 billion.
Yeah, so 1.5 billion people, and when you read Sam's book, going to find your roots when you have literally no information but a postcard. I want to go back to the why, the journey, and flip it over. What after all this, what has it done for you?
Right. It's given me more of an emphasis to help and support people in their journey. I've had numerous people come up saying, great story, and I really, enjoyed it. Something I've always wanted to do was to go search for my roots, but we have even less information. And I've worked with people to help them, and I say, look, even if I wouldn't have found my village, my grandfather's house, I'm walking in the district, in the country, in the vicinity of where my ancestors are from. Even if I couldn't find the exact village, I'm in the vicinity of where my ancestors were. And I always ask people, I was talking to somebody recently who said, our roots go back to Sicily and Italy, and, we have nothing to go by. And I said, but here's the thing. If you ever go to Sicily, see if there's a part of you that just resonates with this place. I think that there's an embers within us that once you get somewhere, you're like, yeah, this really actually starts to feel and make sense. I mean, I wasn't born in Fiji, but my parents come from there and my wife. And I found that when I went to Fiji for the first time, there was something about the place that just connected me to it. So I always tell people that, again, yeah, you may not be able to find the exact location, but just the fact that you can actually relive where your ancestors are, that provides you something,
Yeah, thanks, Sam. It's amazing. Everybody, this is a teaching moment. Come back and listen to this part of the show. Sam said something very deep meaning to me, and it's just for some reason when you went back to Fiji, it connected you. I spent a decade, had a recent fall and a bit of a concussion, and doing a lot of understanding of brain science. And I know you're an educator and you get this, but someone said to me, somewhere in my unconscious mind is the number of telephone poles I've seen on the planet, the license plate of every car. And I realized that growing up, my dad used to have these little reel-to-reel tapes, Sam. And when we came from England, I had a really strong English accent. All this stuff started coming out because I'd blocked it, but my dad would be proud of putting up the reel-to-reel projector, the big screen, and we would sit when people came over, relatives, and he would show these things. And so in my unconscious mind are images of India, images of my granddad, and I can't unlock it. When I set foot in India, I know that's my brain's going to say, wait a minute, that appears to be that.
Right.
And man, that's like the hole in my soul that's just still open. And, that's why it's great to meet you and have you as a mentor in my life. I wanted to mention too, and this is not for ego because you don't have one, man, but you won a couple of awards and you mentioned this story. This is where I have to say that it's not about you. It's not about the story as you put it so well. It's what you do with it to be in service to others. And I think when people see your read the book, something's going to unlock in them and say, man, I've got to get unstuck and move forward in some way. You won a Canadian award and also the Queen's Jubilee Award. You do a lot of giving, and I read that you're a coach, career coach. Just tell us about some of the work that you are and have done.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is, I think that each of us, we have a journey, and it goes back to the quote you shared at the beginning. Everyone's life is an autobiography. Make yours worth reading. And interestingly enough, the other quote that I live by is, obstacles are the necessary bricks on a road to success. Embrace the obstacles because they are placed there as lessons and thoughts and ideas that are actually there to support your journey. I mean, think of it this way. I mean, I graduated from university years ago with a degree in business and political science. And that experience and the experience immediately after carries me to who I am today. Because when I graduated from university, there was this idea and thought, and this is where the ego part came in, was like, okay, I've got a degree in business and political science. Who's lucky to get me? Well, I started applying for jobs, and back then there was no internet or any way to do anything except type out a letter, handwrite a letter, either mail it or deliver it. And I started sending out letters to companies. And I remember there was about 12 that I sent it in a short time, in about 2 weeks. 12 letters out. I thought, okay, who's lucky to get me? Let's see. And maybe about 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. And I opened it up and it said, sorry, we don't have a job for you, but good luck. That's okay. I've still got 11 out there. And you know what? I'm going to do 3 more. Well, I started writing these letters and doing these letters. And again, what I have here is a brick size.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, these are my rejection letters from companies who said,
That's
we don't have a
incredible.
job for you. Yep. And we don't have a job for you. And we don't even know what you're looking for. My first job was entry-level government work because business and political science. But my first job was being a janitor, mopping floors and emptying rubbish bins in a hospital because that's a government job. But here's the thing. I went into that job instead of on a point of, like, what do you mean this is what I have to take? Or the fact that I even took the job because I have a degree on my wall. And are you kidding me? Like, somebody with a degree would never do this job. No, I put all that aside. And because it wasn't who's lucky to get me, it became, am I lucky to even get a job? But Tom, there were 3 life lessons that still carries me to who I am today and really becomes the center point of how I help young people in life and career. I still do about 3 to 8 conversations a week to help people on their journey. And it's been about 5,000 conversations. But the 3 lessons, the first lesson, my father said, I don't care what you do for a living, but anything that you do the best job possible. And I poured my heart and soul into being a janitor at the best and highest level. There was no floor cleaner than at the end of my shift, and there was no rubbish bin left full. There were days where, my back had gone out and I could have easily just said, okay, that's it. I've got to go home after 2 hours. I struggled all the way until every rubbish bin was picked up, even though it was painful throughout the whole process, because who's going to do this otherwise? And I didn't want someone to come into the office the next day saying, what's going on? How come no one picked up our garbage? The second valuable lesson, there were times, and it wasn't every time, but there were times I would get on the elevator with nurses, doctors, and administrators, and I was ignored. And I know what it feels like to be ignored. And I've told myself that I will never do that to anybody. I don't care what a person's story is. I don't care where they are in life and career. I will be willing to listen to their story. I will be willing to sit down and have a conversation with that person. And the third valuable lesson is anything that we encounter in life, we may look at it as an absolute. In other words, this is good, it's bad. I have a degree on my wall and people telling me I wasted my time. But I went into this position. Instead of the obvious, I dug down deeper and said, is there something I can learn from this position? And it was amazing because it taught me that anything that we can do in life and career, there are lessons that are there for us in order to carry us forward. So always look at where you are in life and what are you gaining from this? What is it this going to carry you forward to? But it's provided me, and the journey even after all of this and everything along the way has provided me the tools, the stories, the experiences that I can share in my classes, I can share with individuals, I can share with teams and companies to really help individuals in their own journey.
That's just amazing. I madly made some notes here, everybody. These are teaching moments. I'm just going to review what you said, talking about 3 lessons from your father. One was anything you do your best job possible. Number 2, listen to every story, no matter what it is, and talk to people about their story. Number 3, what can I learn? What lessons can I learn from every situation? It's funny, Sam, why I'm playing that back is it has such a deep meaning at this chapter in my life. I know you and I are going to get together and have some coffee. And, I haven't told you the extent of my current situation, but I had a bit of a mishap, a slip and fall a few years ago. I had to go from a category up here in what I did as an executive at 10 o'clock today after I put my groceries away, which I get delivered. I'm going to drive an hour to North Vancouver and be a table server at a tap house. A friend of mine bought the tap house. It's a bigger company and knew me. Prior to that, I was lifting heavy boxes till midnight and being a produce stalker at Costco.
Mhm.
Where did I get the resilience just to put my ego aside and do that? Man, it was hard. I had to be stripped of my ego. But my father, that came from my dad as well.
Mm.
You know, and when I was at Costco, this is not ego, but I didn't realize till I left 2 years later, I was promoted 3 times from produce stalker to cashier to forklift driver. And all the older guys were going like, how come you get to do that? It doesn't happen until 2 years. And I remember I would come away and pray in my car, God, I'll stay there as long as you want me to, but this is hard. I was banging my body. I lost 40 pounds, got an injury to my hand here, and I'm an author. And I just remember saying to myself, wow, I'm here to learn something, and it doesn't matter what I do. In fact, there's a part of me that felt more proud about that work than being up in the penthouse making a lot more money than the hardworking people. And then my dad started coming in my head. My dad came to Canada and pumped gas, was a janitor, became a journeyman electrician, then a teacher at BCIT. The one thing you said, which I want to ask you in a question to respond to about the next generation, is it puzzles me sometimes. I meet a lot of South Asian young folks, let's say they're in their 20s to 30s, and they grew up with belief systems from their traditional parents that you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, and they go through life feeling they're letting people down, and they feel unhappy and unworthy, and they're living in this place where they want to separate their culture and they just want to escape. Let us be adults, let us marry who we want. I really loved what you said. So what's your advice to the generation before us who are going to lead the world in terms of maintaining their heritage, if they come from India, Fiji, whatever, and fitting in? What advice after all this can you give them?
Actually, I'd give 2 pieces of advice. One to the parents: let the kids be who they are. They are going to be fine, and they're going to do exceptionally well. I can appreciate and understand the parents where they're coming from. They want their kids to have a good life, comfort, and all of that. But equally at the same time, if you're not in the right journey, if you're not on the right train, you're destined for unhappiness. And what I've tried to share with parents first, as we'll talk, and then I'll talk to the younger audience later, but in a couple of seconds. But for parents, it's like, trust the intuition and the initiatives that your kids have, especially because I'm in that space with their kids, like 17 years now, mentored and coached and had about 5,000 conversations in this regard. I have a really good sense and idea about this, is the fact that they're very proud of their heritage, but they're also struggling to discover, where they fit in and who they are. And for the young people, what I've found is I am surrounded by greatness. I mean, you hear all these stories of, people that are wasting their lives, or, they're getting involved in activities that aren't great. But equally, what we never hear about are the stories of, and there's so many of them, of people that are doing so many tremendous great things from so many different backgrounds. And I think and I talk about this in my book as well, is this whole idea that when it comes to your ethnic makeup or cultural background, I remember, and I write about it in the book, is the fact that my life was always a thali. A thali is a platter with segmented dishes. And I grew up being Canadian, British, Indian, and Fijian. And years later, I guess you could say, because I played in an Irish military pipe band for 11 years, there's some Irish chutney on the side. But all of them were always separated. I think by going to India, what I realized is I'm not a thali. I'm actually khichdi. Now, khichdi, for those of your listeners that may not know, it's this Indian rice dish where you literally have rice, but you go to your fridge, you pull these vegetables, whatever's there, and you add these spices and, turmeric and all of these things to add flavor to it. And the idea is we are all khichdi. It doesn't matter where you are. The equivalent would be like an omelet or a bibimbap. but we're all kitschy. And I think what people are really wanting to do is, be able to live in the Canadian society, Canadian culture, whatever that may feel like to that individual. But many of them never want to lose their identity as well. And sometimes what happens is if you're really forcing and forcing and forcing, they start rebelling and going in a different direction. So on the one hand, parents listen and see if there's a level of compromise or conversations that you can have with your individual. And I will ensure and guarantee you that if you have the confidence in them, they are going to go and do great things. But they also need guidance and support. And maybe it's not necessarily only from the parents. Seek out individuals who, aren't going to tell them what to do, but instead are there to support their journey. My second TEDx that I did was about activating the voice within to be louder than the noise around. And it's all about, and I share this with parents and I share this with students. In fact, in my class, I have to go in and mark it, but I make every single student write a personal statement. Tell me who you are. We're not defined by what we do. We're defined by who we are. And I'm only looking for a paragraph or two maximum, but not a running resume of telling me who you are. If you and I meet for the first time, how are we going to introduce ourselves? And they say it's one of the toughest exercises that they've ever had to do.
Oh, I'm just writing a note there about that. I'm going to try to do that after. And I think you're right. Sam, so much you said to us there. Mm-hmm. And for all the young people, when I say young, I mean the generations before us that will be leading the world, Sam. I think you've given us many gifts. It's interesting because with this part about maintaining your heritage, and I think the other part of this that I think about is the brain, that up till about age 15, we don't have the use of that rational brain. So everything that comes in and gets locked in our neurons is fact. Mm-hmm. So I want to add to that words matter. And as we're raising our children, what we say about our heritage, what we say about them, they're saying now that psychologists are saying when we give feedback to children, I grew up with don't do this, don't do that. But we need to say, son, I love you. Son, I don't like that behavior, but I love you. And we need to go back to talking about our roots, how we love our roots, because I know raising my daughter who's 23 now in university, I don't think I've ever talked a lot about India. And maybe that's because of my own shame about not understanding it or my identity. It's amazing. We're part of this train, man. And you're teaching us something there. I want to wrap up here by asking you to hold that book up again.
Sure.
Fantastic. Tell us the title. Read the title out to.
So Lost and Found, Seeking the Past and Finding Myself.
All right, everybody. I'm recommending it highly. I've already written a review to be posted for it. Get it. The audiobook is pretty fantastic. There's a great narrator, and do a review for it. I'm just going to show you something. We've got a fan club here. I'm going to put a comment on the screen. There you go. Finding ourselves, what an involved adventure. Now, this is live off of Facebook, man. So you've got some people there. Take that off there. And so let's wrap up. I want to honor you with a few things, Sam. I do this on all the shows. First of all, leadership words. I've written these down as you're speaking, not scripted. I added one more to it. Usually there's four. The number one is the voice within. That's who you are. Number two is resilience. 3 is positivity. There's something about you. I think you know this, but if you're mentoring kids or youth, you're very positive. You're authentic and real. And the last one's vulnerability, man. Sharing even some of those deep, painful parts of your story about your own challenges. Just awesome. So you're getting an award today. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
And I know when we have that coffee and everybody, we live not far apart. I'm just going to put me on the screen for a moment, Sam. So behind me there, you see that image, kind of like a guy I know. That's a challenge coin. If you have heard of these, they came from World War I, and they were created to create community. And around the world, they're carried by first responders and many. So I had a vision to mint these coins. They're made in the U.S., handcrafted, painted. The back of the coin is actually the hero's journey narrative, beautifully illustrated. And less than 50 a year go out. These are now in the pockets of people Quiet Warriors, maybe in 15 countries. Dude, when you receive this, you commit to continuing to take action with that purpose and passion you've developed to help change the lives of others. And so welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
No, thank you. And if I may respond back with an award for you, well, it's an award, but it's also very special and important. What I've done is over the last many years, it's been about 5,000 that I've given out to date. The idea is what I hold is a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Okay. And I've given about 5,000 pieces in the world to date.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. This is what people feel like. They feel like that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. They don't know where they fit in. They don't know what the bigger picture is. And it's ordinary. And this was the essence of what I spoke about in my first TEDx.
Yeah.
It's ordinary. There's nothing much about it if I give you the single piece. But here's how you make it extraordinary. Instead, my satchel. If I give you a piece of my puzzle, do you realize my puzzle is permanently incomplete without you? Do you realize how important you are to me?
Wow.
And it's interesting because I've heard back from people who said it's taped to their mirrors. It reminds them every morning someone said that they matter. It's traveled the world in backpacks. It's in curio boxes. I've had people tell me that they've gone through a difficult, challenging time in their life when they even had contemplated suicide. And in the deepest, darkest moments, the puzzle piece, they said, it wasn't exactly the only thing that pulled them out, but they just said it reminded me, someone told me how important I was. So when we meet, you will be getting that puzzle piece, but also to your audience as well. It's just, everybody, you never realize how you're connected to people. And It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment.
Amen to that. Thank you, Sam. I can't wait to get the puzzle piece, man. And I'll be putting it right up there on my mirror. And that's just so meaningful. And I'll close on this and I'll give it back to you for the last word. Tell us where we can get a hold of you, your stuff. There might be a website or something.
Yep. So if you see my name, it's easy. It's just www.sam-thiara.com. That's my website. You can easily put my name into LinkedIn and you'll find me. There's one of two of us. One's in England who I've connected to, and the other one is me. But those are the two best ways that you can reach out and, hopefully have a conversation. So those are where I post and I blog. So please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much. I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah. What was the meaning of Ajit again? You told me that. I just forgot.
Ajit means unconquerable.
Okay. You know what? I'm coining the phrase unconquerable Sam. Unconquerable Sam. Or, Sam, Ajit, Sam, Thiara. We're going to have to work on that together, man. And you know what? It'd be fun for you to help me get to my roots and find out if there was an Indian name, what would have been for Tom. Yeah. That would be pretty cool. No, all right, everybody. All right, Sam, it's been a blessing, man. Thank you for being on the show. I know we'll have more to talk about. Have you back. Everybody find that true passion like you hear from Sam. Live with that true purpose and live the life that you deserve and that you desire. Hey, Sam, thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Tom. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to more conversations.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca